Today, two of the mightiest, most terrifying, most bloodthirsty individuals in all of the 40k universe are going to be going head to head to see who truly is the greatest champion of Khorne. Because that's right, Angron is back, and this time he's pitting his skull-taking skills against none other than the exiled one, Skarbrand. Seeing their profiles side by side, it's pretty clear they are both really quite terrifying in combat. Skarbrand comes in at 330 points compared to Angron's 360, but both have a very solid amount of wounds and attacks. Angron has 18 wounds and 12 attacks, Skarbrand has 22 wounds and 8 attacks. Skarbrand is slightly tougher at T8, but Angron doesn't much care for that as he's strength 9 anyway. As always in these fights, there will be only the rules and abilities on the datasheet being used. There will be no external buffs, no stratagems, no psychic powers, although that's not going to be a thing anyway, it's Khorne v Khorne, and we will do a round where Angron charges in first and a round where Skarbrand charges in first to see what happens in both situations. So let's not waste any more time. There is blood to spill and there are skulls to reap, and without even waiting for the word go, Angron leaps forward and smashes Samniaris and Spinegrinder into the fallen champion of Khorne. Angron, with his 2+ weapon skill and Lord of the Arena rule giving him reroll hits, will be hitting pretty much all of the time. He has 12 attacks at his full bracket, plus 1 for Relentless Rage, and then weirdly he gets another one thanks to Skarbrand himself, whose Rage Embodied rule gives an extra attack to every unit within 6 inches, not just friendly ones. So that means on the charge, Angron will be getting a whopping 14 attacks using his skull-taking / profile. So thanks to his hit rerolls, Angron will get 13.6 hits through into Skarbrand, and at strength 15 he will be wounding on 3s. He doesn't have any rerolls for this, which means of those 13.6 hits, about 9.07 go through to wound. And then Skarbrand, he doesn't have an armor save or an invuln save, he just has this demonic save, which is basically an invuln but better. Skarbrand always has this 4-up save, even against attacks that ignore invulnerable saves, but it is just a 4-up, so it's less good against no AP or low AP firepower, where he would prefer to have, maybe a 2-up or a 3-up save, but when he's hit by a big -4 AP weapon like Angron's, this really is going to help him out. And so the 9.07 wounds drop to just 4.53 unsaved thanks to his demonic save, and then Angron's / profile is of course that terrifying D3 plus 3 damage. So those 4.5 unsaved wounds average out into 22.6 damage in total. And Skarbrand, not having any damage reduction or feel no pain or wound cap, crumbles back into the warp as Angron, even with 14 attacks, does only just manage to take him out. He beats him by a mere half a wound, just being over Skarbrand's 21 wound total. So it's a very close run thing, but Angron does on average just about manage to banish Skarbrand back into the warp. It's interesting though, because if Skarbrand didn't give Angron that extra attack, Angron wouldn't beat Skarbrand on the charge. If Angron just had 13 attacks, he would only do around 21 damage to Skarbrand, which would leave him alive with 1 wound left. With his other profile, the Bloodletting Sweep, Angron fares much worse. Even with the absurd 42 attacks he would have, he still only manages to put through just under 14 damage, 13.6 to be precise. So using the Sweep profile, he leaves Skarbrand with almost half health, ready to swing back into Angron. So the strike profile is absolutely the one you are going to want to be using if you find yourself lined up against the Bloodthirster. So it seems that there will be no swings back from Skarbrand when Angron does get to charge, but what if Skarbrand gets the jump on the Fallen Primarch? Can he do the same amount of damage in return? Well, Skarbrand first off gets a shooting attack. He has the Bellow of Endless Fury, which is an assault 2d6 auto-hitting shot. With an average of 7 hits, at strength 5 these will only be wounding on 5s, and Skarbrand has no innate rerolls to help in range or in melee, so that just causes 2.3 wounds, which drop Angron's 2+ armor save to a 3+, meaning only around 0.77 get through, and it is just a flat 1 damage, so it's just 0.77 damage through onto Angron before combat. So it isn't much, but will that make all the difference? Now, as Skarbrand charges in, he brings his axes Slaughter and Carnage up in the Mighty Strike profile, ready to cut Angron's head from his body. He hits on 2s in his top bracket, although this does drop down to just 4s when he's in his bottom bracket, but in this scenario, he is still at full health, so he will be hitting on 2s. He has 8 attacks base, plus 1 from his own Rage Embodied ability for 9 in total. With no rerolls to hit, he gets 7.5 hits, but with ×2 strength on the axes, he is now strength 16, which means he easily wounds Angron on 2s, causing 6.25 wounds in total. But now here is where it gets interesting, because Skarbrand's axes are -4 AP, so Angron's 2-up save drops to a 6-up. But I hear you say, he's got a 4-up invulnerable save to keep him safe. Well, in the strike profile, Slaughter and Carnage actually ignore invulnerable saves. So the only thing Angron has to protect him from Skarbrand's strike profile is a measly 6+ armor save. And what that means is that from those 6.25 wounds, 5.2 are going to be unsaved. And much like Angron, Skarbrand's strike profile is that juicy D3 plus 3 damage. So with an average of 5 on D3 plus 3 damage, that results in Skarbrand doing 26 damage to poor Angron, and he is bisected almost in half as the blood-soaked demon bellows in rage. And so it seems that, as you might expect, whoever gets the charge off will be the winner in this fight. Both are capable of taking the other down in one round of combat. Although, to be fair, Skarbrand does it much more convincingly than Angron. If Angron even rolls slightly under average, he could very well leave Skarbrand on 1 or 2 wounds left, as he only does about half a point of damage over Skarbrand's 22 wounds. And so, just because of that, and also because Skarbrand has a rather interesting degradation table, let's see what happens if Angron slightly flubs his rolls, or maybe he didn't get the charge off so he only has 13 attacks instead of the 14 he would have, and he doesn't quite manage to kill Skarbrand. Let's see if Skarbrand can still do as much damage to Angron when he is in his bottom bracket. And you may well say, obviously he won't, he gets worse the more injured he gets, and that is true to an extent. His weapon skill does drop from 2-up to 3-up to 4-up when he has only got 1 to 5 wounds left, but his attacks, on the other hand, they actually increase. He has 8 base, but then he goes all the way up to 10 at his bottom bracket. So Skarbrand at full health can do 26 damage to Angron. Let's see how much an injured and angry Skarbrand can do by comparison. Now, with 11 attacks, thanks to his 10 base and 1 extra from Rage Embodied, he is only hitting on 4s, so he just gets 5.5 hits into Angron this time. Again, he will still be wounding on 2s, so that leads to 4.5 wounds, and again it will leave Angron on just that 6-up armor save, meaning 3.8 unsaved wounds will go through. 3.8 wounds doing D3 plus 3 damage each though, still equates to just over 19 wounds into Angron, leaving him and his 18 wounds a very splattered, bloody mess on the floor again. So even if Skarbrand is on his very last wound and Angron is at full health, using the strike profile, Skarbrand can indeed lay low the Primarch of the World Eaters thanks to that incredibly powerful Ignore Invuln save ability. And then, just for the sake of completion, Skarbrand does of course have a sweep profile as well. At full health, this would be 18 attacks, hitting on 2s and wounding on 3s, means that 10 wounds go through. At -2 AP, this would drop Angron to a 4-up invuln or his 4-up armor save, so only 5 go through, and at a flat 2 damage each, it is just 10 damage in total. So again, the sweep profile, despite all those extra attacks, just can't compensate for the sheer damage potential of the D3 plus 3 damage that the strike profile has instead. So there we have it. This one I think was a bit expected. I don't think anyone really thought that they wouldn't kill the other one when they got the charge off either Angron or Skarbrand. Although I do have to say, I am surprised at just how durable Skarbrand is against Angron. Angron was only barely able to take Skarbrand down, and as I said earlier, with slightly under average rolling or maybe just a CP reroll from the demon player, you could very well expect Skarbrand to survive a charge from Angron and then still just demolish him on the return swings even if you're down to 1 wound left. Whilst if Skarbrand gets the charge off into Angron, Angron is pretty much guaranteed to be dead. There's just so much damage, and all Angron has to protect him is a 6-up save, so it's almost a certainty. Even if Angron used a CP reroll on a save, he would almost definitely be dead from Skarbrand's attacks. But as always, what did you make of this fight? Did it go as you were expecting both ways? And I'd also love to know, what do you think Angrath the Unbound could do to Angron? I might actually do that one, although at 450 points, you would think that Angrath would just demolish Angron in a 1v1 fight, but I might do that. He is a bit of an older profile, so maybe he hasn't been updated quite as well, but that could be an interesting one to see. Then maybe do Angrath versus Skarbrand as well, just to try them all out. If Karbanda had 40k rules, I would do him as well, but I don't think he does at the moment anyway. But it'd be interesting to see which of Khorne's champions is actually the best. So far, I'm thinking that Skarbrand seems to be slightly better than Angron overall based on this showing, although Angron can take him out. It is a very, very close run thing. But as always, let me know your thoughts and ideas and theories and opinions down in the comments below. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.